and gentlemen, welcome into this edition of this bye-week edition of the Duval Dive. We could call it live if we wanted to, but that seems kind of lame with no football going on for the Jacksonville Jaguars. But you, Duval Devout, have stepped up to the plate, gave us a number of questions. We went through some of them with Jamal St. Cyr. Make sure you check that out on the Duval Dive YouTube channel. He did a great job, News 4 Jax. Jamal St. Cyr, thank you for that. Thank you for questions from all around the Jaguars universe, including Big Cat Country and 1010XL's Gus Loga. Give him a bell for sure. But listen, if I'm going to talk about Big Cat Country, and if I'm going to talk about answering your questions, Duval Devout, I am not the fool to claim to do this myself. No, I need far more involved with your inquisition upon your Jacksonville Jaguars. I need the help of my personal champion, battling back, playing a little bit hurt, but nonetheless looking to be productive, Travis D. Holmes. Welcome back, man. Great to have you finally back on. I hope you recovered some. It seems like you have. That's the good news. And before I forget, happy Thanksgiving, buddy.
Yeah, I'm working at 55%, but you know we gonna make this thing happen. I can
gracious.
as long as I can walk and talk, I'm all right.
As long as he can walk and talk, folks. That's just half the battle when it comes to my dude, Travis D. Holmes, my personal champion. I wanted, before I get into the mailbag questions proper, Jamal St. Cyr, and folks, this is how production people segue when they're trying to make something happen technically on the other end, right? But with Jamal St. Cyr, he and I spoke about the concept of an EVP, an executive vice president, brought aboard to help Shad Khan run things.
Right.
Just quickly, how do you think that's a good option to explore?
I mean, I think it's a great option to explore. Unfortunately, from everyone that I've talked to, it's not an option that they're going to be that the front office of the Jacksonville Jaguars, namely Shad Khan, is willing to explore after the Tom Coughlin situation. The last time he went the EVP route, so it sounds like with Shad being so, I guess, inexperienced as an owner, his only experience having an EVP sounds like it might have placed a little bit of distaste in his mouth in going back to that that lineup. Unfortunately, I think he had the right idea with the EVP. He may have just had the wrong candidate, someone who was a little bit aged, old school in that way. But I think the organization actually worked. But I've talked to multiple, people in the building. I've talked to multiple, agents outside of Jacksonville, and they've all said there's a 0% chance that they're going to EVP route, and because that was my dream.
I know. Yeah, you, Jamal, both liked it. Now instead, he has you both shouting up at the screen like William Shatner in the Star Trek movie. Come on! Why aren't you doing this? I'm not asking you to do that here on the show. You are still recovering with your voice. We don't need you screaming at the sky quite. Maybe that's how you lost your voice, Travis. I don't know. I wasn't there. So
it's we're gonna get it back. Upper respiratory infection was what we'll say.
Oh, it was official. Yes, that's it. But you were marked as questionable coming into this week after being marked out, but we're glad you're here. Now that I have it ready, let's go ahead and get into the grab bag questions there and see how we're looking here up front here. And I remember this tweet from, I think it was a couple weeks back. It's Ian D. steps in from Twitter. Trevor saved the franchise by getting drafted here, which, I mean, there are people that might debate that, separate question. But do you think he is saving it again by getting hurt? Of course, still missing time to the AC joint. Hard to believe any changes would happen if he was keeping games close. Travis, this is an interesting point they're bringing here. I'm going to throw that out there at first. I'll say this, but what say you, my friend?
I want to answer this in two ways. All right, so one, it's a coin flip. I'm not going to say it's 50-50, but I don't think I'm outrageous to say it was a 35-70 possibility that Trevor did save the franchise by being drafted here. I mean, if you think about the fact that we finally got a quarterback and we were historically bad, we're still pretty bad, but we were historically bad when he was drafted here, and we had a stadium negotiations that was coming up.
That's a great point.
I mean, let's be clear about the timing of when that happened. So in that piece, yeah, he absolutely saved the franchise by being drafted here because he raised the he raised the general floor if you give him an adequate football coach and an adequate GM to around that 500 range.
More on that
Um,
later.
yes, but did he save the franchise again by getting hurt? Oh boy. I mean, that's been my stance on this thing from day one. And I keep ringing that bell talking about 2022, and it sucks to have to say because I am that pessimistic guy who's been burnt by the Jaguars, and because of that, I need to see it before I believe it. But I said it in 2022. It didn't feel like a feasible way of continuing to play football, being down 10 plus points, having to run hurry up offense, having to come back and be a cardiac situation in every game,
Hmm.
and not being able to actually like win in the first quarter. And by that I mean come out hot, come out on your scheduled plays, moving the ball, things of that nature. Like they were winning on turnovers on defense, they were winning just coming back, and doing all the things that's where I'm not talking to, like I'm not listening to the OC and running the structured offense. I'm just making it happen playground style. It didn't seem like it was something that was able to be, to be carried moving forward. It's something to be consistently done. And I'm not patting myself on the back, but I am in some ways. I was right. Other defensive coordinators in the NFL, they had an offseason to realize this and just said, okay, cool. We're going to keep doing that same thing that the San Francisco 49ers put on tape, the Detroit Lions put on tape, the Kansas City Chiefs defense put on tape, and make the Jaguars do something different. And the Jacksonville Jaguars could never do anything different offensively from that point moving on. And here we are. So, yes, Trevor getting hurt might have possibly saved this franchise. But an interesting caveat to that is Trevor possibly playing this coming week could put a dent in all of that hope for the Duval Devout right now. Because if he plays and they win, 4 out of 6 or 5 out of 6, then there's some conversation on, well, does he keep Balky? Does he keep Doug for that final year and let the new GM figure that out? Like, what happens there? It's going to be real intriguing, man.
It's interesting you talk about you're not going to pat yourself on the back too hard, but in the way this team makes you sad. Here's my dramatization of this team makes me drink and then being right as Travis Holmes.
Right, right. You want to be wrong because you love this team, but if you see if you see your child playing with juggling knives, and you just like you don't want to be right that they're gonna cut their hands, and you tell them to stop, but if they keep doing it, eventually it's gonna happen. You're not patting yourself on the back because it happened. I'm just telling you, this is what I told you to stop doing it. Dang,
It,
listen.
I think we're both that dad that I mean, not with knives, that's a bit dramatic, but like I think we're both that dad. You ain't gonna be wanting to be doing that, and then boom, they get hurt. I tried to tell you.
Hmm.
I think we're both that dad, bro. Hey, let's go to the next question by 904 Funk, which I gotta tell you,
Mm,
I dig that scream name. That's fun.
yeah.
But or that is that a Discord handle or a Twitter handle there?
That's Discord. That's
Okay,
Discord
so
all day.
shouts to the Discord group, no doubt. Evan Ingram has to be.
I love all of their screen names, mind you. They are
Uh,
rough, but they are
you gotta
hilarious.
invite me in there, bro. Come on. Hey, that being said, Evan Ingram has to be in the discussion in regards to cap casualties, seeing how his
Mm.
salary cap is nearly a $20 million hit in 2025 and is his last year under contract. With that in mind, do you feel comfortable rolling to the next season with Brenton Strange, Luke Farrell, or a new rookie or free agent? Basically, and not to over simplify your question, 904 Funk. What happens next year at tight end? I think is the best way to kind of summarize this. So, Travis, what do you think?
That's going to be a fun conversation, and I think we're all curious about how that's going to end up. I'm kind of in that same boat. Like you're going to have to restructure and put. It's so I say restructure, and it sucks because there's already 3 void years on his contract,
Yeah.
so we're already borrowing against the future in that way. And yeah, so I don't know how they're going to make that happen unless they're going to make this thing, a post. You have the trade option, you have the post June 1st cut option, and where all of a sudden the contract starts seeming a little bit more feasible. You're going to have $4 million in dead cap in 2025, $4 million. So like you spread that out over 3 years, or you can just take the full hit, of a 15-ish million dollar dead cap next year. That's just not it's not winning football, but that's what you knew. That's not winning, like, valuations as far as contracts and structure is concerned. But we knew that when the Jaguars jumped into the void cap game, when they did the
Yeah.
same thing with Brandon Scherf's contract, like they just added all these void years. You're going as soon as you enter the void year contract conversation, you kind of have to do that on all future contracts, or you're going to have to pay the piper eventually. Like the New Orleans Saints, there's been a few different examples like that. So I guess they're going to wait till they get that new GM, knock on wood, if that
Yeah.
happens,
Right.
and the new coach, and kind of just see how they feel about having a really good pass catching tight end who may be a little bit limited in the run blocking game, because some coaches just don't like that. They want a real tight end. They want to get a first round, second round, third round tight end who's balanced on both sides, and you go with Brendan Strange. Maybe you go with Luke Farrell or something like along those lines, and with another rookie, and get cheaper at tight end because it's just not worth it. And that might be the route to go. So it's going to be an interesting conversation along the same lines of Christian Kirk. And I know a lot of people are kind of out on him because of his contract number and his injury. That's the
Right.
conversation, man.
Well, yeah, and by the way, before somebody's like, well, why don't you just restructure him for future years? Dude turns 31 next year, so that's problematic too.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, unless
Turning
you're gonna,
31 with 3 void years on your contract, so you're already taking that hit in 3 more years on as far as this contract is concerned. That is not ideal, but it was never ideal. We just had to put the blinders on because we were hoping that the Jaguars are going to be good this year and we would pay the penalty in future years. And now they're not. And now you got hard decisions. So now in the fourth month, you were asking the right questions. What does the future hold there? That's a wonderful, wonderful question. Like maybe a restructure, maybe make that debt, spread it out a little bit more.
yeah,
Um, add another year to it, something along those lines. But otherwise, that new coach is going to have to decide what does he want out of his tight end room, and if he wants more blocking and more dominant running up front, like a lot of coaches,
yeah.
well then that might mean a post June 1st trade, June 1st designated trade in the offseason, or a cut or something like that, or maybe they'll just let him play it out and then kind of figure it out from there.
They may have to. And by the way, you mentioned Christian Kirk's contract. As bad as I air quotes pointed it out to be this offseason in some articles I wrote for Jaguars on SI, it gets kind of worse next year. And then of course you mentioned the
Yeah.
void contract years. Um, I don't know why we be trying to pay people like a little mini Bobby Bonilla contract, but that's a separate conversation. Uh,
Hmm.
with Christian Kirk, I think there's still fuel left in the tank, depending, of course. Well, no, it's a collarbone injury that has him out. So, like, I don't think
Yeah.
Christian. I think Christian Kirk has more shelf life left than Evan Ingram. I'll give him that much credit.
Ooh. Okay, that's
Um,
fair. Shelf life is not the reason that I would say getting off that contract. And again, I love Christian Kirk. He's my favorite, literally my favorite interview and my favorite guy in the locker room. And that
yeah,
is saying something, especially me
right,
being a defensive guy.
right.
But nevertheless, I'm talking just pure football, pure contract, pure numbers, and everything else. In all those ways, Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram, for the same reason, if you're a certain type of coach, are probably not back in Jacksonville in 2025, for if you're someone who wants to establish that run game. One, Evan Ingram, again, he doesn't block that well, and he kind of that's the reason that even when you get into a best case scenario, he's probably at around that 60% snap rate.
Yeah,
That just is what it is, because you're going to lean on Brandon Strange, you're going to lean on Luke Farrell when you want to kind of establish that and play balanced offense. But also Christian Kirk, even this year we saw it. They wanted to play more, 2 receiver sets, less 3 receiver sets, and even when they did want to play 3 receiver sets, 50% of those times they wanted BTJ in the slot because he's been leading the dang league in separation out of the slot.
right.
Also, so Christian Kirk then gets in the way of that, and that sucks to say, but BTJ's ascension means in some ways Christian Kirk's going to have to take a back seat to that. You want
Right.
to be able to move BTJ around, so you have to decide who you want to be, and if you want that to be a BTJ led team, then that would also mean Christian Kirk would then have to be moved out of the way, and for the price that what his contract is looking at and the cap savings you're going to get from having him be gone, that makes it a very easy conversation at that point.
But no one's going to pick up these contracts. That's the problem.
Jackson.
Right?
Well, Pittsburgh Steelers were looking to pick up his contract before he got injured. If Christian Kirk did not get injured, Christian Kirk would be a Pittsburgh Steeler right now. I don't think that's
So
a
maybe
question.
that still happens in the offseason once he's recovered. I mean, if he starts passing physicals, they like what they see. Can you rule it out?
Quite possibly. Quite possibly. I mean, again, and even if they didn't, there's still the. I don't see the Jacksonville Jaguars paying that salary, and that's my point. Because again, you don't want to be that limited. I mean, and that's the Trent Baalke. I don't know what they call it. Put down. That's the Trent Baalke.
That's his policy.
That's
his yeah. That's kind of how
everything. Everyone that he's going to bring in is going to be limited in some way, and we've had this conversation in so many different ways in the running back room, the receiver room.
They're great. Yeah, no, Jamal made the same exact point on Wednesday, and you've made it throughout your tenure on the Duval Dive and all that. If you like and subscribe to the Duval Dive YouTube channel, you can verify that yourself.
Thank you.
So
at the end of the day, I would say yes, going the strange route, going the Farrell route with the rookie. First round, probably not. Second round, you might be a little expensive for my taste, but I could at least see it. But getting into that third and later, absolutely, I could see a developmental rookie coming in and just being added to that room and getting cheaper in that room at the same time.
Yeah, it's not that I'm saying anything you said is wrong. The only bit of pushback I will get is you mentioned that Jacksonville doesn't want to pay either of those numbers for Ingram or Christian. But the problem is at this point, unless they get a dance partner, they're going to have to. That's the downside of contracts, right? And I get
no, but they don't. They don't. They legitimately don't. They can just cut them.
But then they take the cap hit.
Yeah, you take the cap, but you have to. So, post June 1st trade, a cut of Christian Kirk for next year is a dead cap of $7 million and cap savings of 16.5. That's fine. Like that's great. No one's mad about that. And as far as Evan Ingram is kind of you're entering in that same conversation that we already talked about the void cap situation. You can't avoid that. That is what it is. They've entered that game, but it's not so bad that you just can't do it. It's not you're not. It's not close to the time of his original contract. I guess
it's not like the Giants cutting Danny Dimes and taking a $20-something million instantaneous slap in the face, right?
Right. Yeah, you don't have to pay it, but you can also. But he's a good enough talent where you'd want him on the roster if it's just going to be a reasonable. A reasonable cost. But again, even in 2025, I finally got to pull it up. At its 31 years old, he's going to have a dead cap of $4 million, cap savings of 15.75. Like, we aren't talking small numbers.
You're talking about with Evan Ingram's contract right now.
That's Evan Ingram's contract, correct? Yeah, gotcha. So we're not talking small numbers at all. So I'm not saying that they're bad enough players where they have to get off the contract. Oh no, I'm talking about it depends on what the coach wants, and if they want to run the ball, well, then those aren't two guys you're probably not going to want to have there, especially for those costs. And if you are someone who's looking to be balanced, yeah, you want to go and get cheaper in those rooms and pay that, and that dead cap is going to be the dead cap. Who cares about a dead cap from a previous GM who's no longer here? Right. I'm all about moving forward. It's about the future at that point.
And you mentioned the $7 million savings with Evan Ingram. That part's absolutely true. Taking that dead cap and getting those savings.
This is per over the cap. Spot Track has slightly different numbers in the way that they kind of calculate it, but we're in the same ballpark.
Yeah, the punchline, but when I look at Christian Kirk's contract, it's a much bigger set of handcuffs. I'll put it that way. Yeah, they're in a much worse space there. But the good news is whether you're running the ball or not, I think you can find a way to use Christian Kirk eventually down the line.
But so this is fun. So this season in 2024, the reason I knew Christian Kirk was going to be on the trade block, and I wasn't trying to put it out there because again I love Christian Kirk, and you know how I am. I want to be sensitive with this thing, but it became obvious when the rumor mill started going and people started talking about the Steelers even putting out feelers for him.
The Steelers even putting out feelers. I like that.
Yeah. It was the fact that you could look at his snap rate Like you can go week by week and just look at his snap count. There's multiple websites that track this stuff, whether it's PFF or all the different fantasy football sites.
Or even
You can look at
Travis's
his.
eyes are pretty famous for tracking stuff
Well,
like
Big Cat
that.
Country, we track it every week also. So please take a look at the articles. But no, it's there, and you can see it week by week, and it's like, oh man, okay, so I see what it says. Anytime that there's a close game where the Jaguars are trying to like control the ball, run the ball, his snap rate was always going to be around 50% or less, and that's what it was. And it was kind of one of those things where I'm like, okay, so if the Jaguars want to be this, Christian Kirk can't be on the field, and if the Jaguars are behind by a lot, he's going to get those extra snaps, and it's going to be a little bit inflated. But that's not who they want to be. That's just who they're forced to be because they're playing from behind. And you knew then that they were going to be looking for a partner at trade deadline.
I see a world where Kirk, especially, maybe less Ingram, where one or both of these players are cut and then re-signed with a different agreement, depending on how things go with the market. But first, they would have to fail to move either player. So I think that's something else that would be on the table. But yeah, let's table all that, because that's a lot of this is speculation and a 2025 conversation, but certainly a good question from 904 Funk there. Definitely what he did. Let's go to the next question. Why do you think Ryan Nielsen failed so bad? I thought for sure he'd get the defense going, but they've never looked worse. So loaded stuff there. First of all, do you agree with the statement they've never looked worse, Travis Holmes?
I don't think I have a choice. I'm handcuffed on this one. They have not. Oh boy, they have not looked worse, and they have multiple reasons, and that's the part that sucks. Because
can I get one out the way just so we don't have to touch on it? So everyone else, because I know that stop with the rotation ball. I'm just saying.
You said that so loud that I only heard half of it. I'm going to be honest with you.
Rotation bull bleep.
Well, he did the whole rotation bull beep with the Atlanta Falcons also, which was weird.
That's a separate conversation.
It worked well for them, so folks probably just thought, man, maybe he was only doing it there because he had lesser talent, and then he gets better talent here, and well, it's not working. And Robert says Shad Khan has patience, and will lose the players himself.
I think that tracks to that salary conversation, but I don't know. Listen, okay, Robert, not to say that you're wrong. I'm not sure how much he actually dabbles in player salary stuff, but that's a separate question. Go ahead, Travis.
That's fair. All right. So why did it fail? I mean, the rotation part is a part of it, because one of the few times we finally started seeing what this defense should look like as far as the rotations at the linebacker, having Miller in at the same time as Lloyd, at the same time as Foye, like it was looking good as far as the linebacker play was concerned. When we finally started seeing Eric Armstead in before the last game, but against the Vikings and dang it, what was the week before that?
The Packers.
The Packers. No, was it the Eagles?
It was the Packers, then the Eagles, and the Vikings.
Yeah. There we go. And against the Vikings, they look good. And that was one of the few times we've seen this season where, as far as the defensive front was concerned, Eric Armstead had more snaps at defensive tackle. Cool. And the edges kind of played where it was those two for the most part. Outside, you weren't taking them off the field as much. I'm like, all right, this is it. And then all of a sudden, I looked at the rest of the snap counts, and I'm like, well, crap. But now he's rotating the defense. Now he's rotating the cornerbacks more. Now you got Ronald Darby at 50%, and you got Jarian Jones at 50%, and you got Monterey Brown at 50%. So I don't even know then, but it worked. So you can't really say anything. No one's going to complain about something that's working. Same thing with the Atlanta Falcons. No one's complaining if it's working there. We only complain when it doesn't. So to answer the core questions for Jags 28BB. Why did it not work? One, personnel. I mean, we knew it was going to be a problem at the start of the season, personnel-wise. Like, we thought this was going to be an offensive-led team. And to give the defense time early on in the season to kind of acclimate, to figure out who they are, to figure out how they want to play this thing, to figure out who's
these
best
younger
and who's
players
worse.
In early that they know they want to contribute, like the Jarian Jones or the allegedly Mason Smiths.
Right. We had very much of the fan base who was all out early on Ronald Darby, and I'm not saying because of his performance. I'm saying because them just thinking, no, we don't want this guy who's been brought in, who's an older gentleman. I don't want to say a retread because that's not accurate at all. But there's a lot of guys who was out on him before even seeing him play in Jacksonville,
right?
And that because they wanted one of the top guys, or they wanted one of the top corners in the draft. and that's not what Darby is. And even with that being said, Darby still has struggled. Even to my original expectation, he has struggled in this defense. Andre Cisco has struggled in this defense, and
Oh
again,
boy.
that's that acclamation thing. And I don't even know what to say to that piece. Just Cisco specifically, I don't know what to say to that individual piece because for free safety, cover three or cover three match, it's no different. So if you're playing cover three in Mike Caldwell's pure zone cloud defense, and you're playing cover three match as a free safety, it's the same thing. So I don't know how you were so good in that one and struggling. I mean, we talking true struggle bus in this one.
Struggle
I don't really
bus.
have an answer on that piece, but I'm just calling a spade of it's not working for whatever reason. Maybe
By
the
the
weight
way,
gain, maybe the speed, it's not working.
look. By the way, look at Travis being one of the cool kids, getting questions from the blue sky. Look at that. That's what I'm talking
I
about.
promise, bro. We are going to pressure. We are going to peer pressure you all into joining us, cool kids, on that blue sky. Give it time. It's coming, baby.
Listen, I set up my SOTG handle. I don't use it yet, but it's there. You so and
There we
so's.
go.
So,
There we go. Success. Peer pressure. You hear that, y'all? Peer pressure works. There we
hey
go.
man,
Uh,
listen. You call it peer pressure. I call it fan appeal. Either way, it's the same bleeding thing.
oh, actually,
Uh,
I call it bullying. I call it bullying. There we go. Cyberbullying works, gentlemen. Uh,
wait, listen. What is bullying if not fans demanding something? Facts of the case
there you
there.
go.
We'll run over a little bit long for this question. NSFB says from the Discord, how's it going? I hope
It's
it's going good
FB.
for you. Travis is feeling better. This is what I'm told. But the real question, what's the strategy for the left tackle spot?
Mm,
Do you have a free agent stopcat? Do you put Anton? Do you draft a left tackle with a high pick? First of all, listen, I'm going to take the lead on this. This is a good question, and I am going to say that this is a dependency question, right? First of all, we all know Anton's got talent, and I don't think jumping him
yeah.
across to the left tackle spot after a training camp or in an off season is a struggle. Okay, I'm gonna lead with that.
Okay.
Um, what they do with him is, I think, dependent on how precisely they replace Cam Robinson. And we've said on this show, and T Wig, Locked On Jaguars, he's helped me kind of see the light in that Walker Little isn't really going to be retained. If they were going to retain him, they would have paid him by now. I
Mm,
don't think he'll be on the roster, so I'm going to go on record saying that if, just to get it out of the way, if they retained Walker Little, what I would picture happening is they would kick Anton to the left and then let the right tackle battle out who's getting reps. And if the right tackle's good enough, maybe that guy's the one they pick or put on the left tackle side. Maybe they draft the left tackle and see what happens. I don't know. Some
interesting.
guys are versatile enough to get kicked from side to side, and others aren't. That's
Right.
where your scout team comes in. But
Mm,
for me, what you do with Anton is based on what you get. I feel like they're going to draft a dude, but they're not going to do it at a high spot.
right.
Or for the right price, they could go after a free agent. But Travis, we've been talking about all these contract woes. I don't see a world where they really afford a good free agent. If they go
Oh,
free agent, they're going to get a free agent right tackle anyway to let Anton go left because it'd be cheaper, right?
I believe that would be the
So,
smarter route to do this. Absolutely. Is you
yeah,
probably, if you go tackle in free agency, you go tackle at the right side and you're pushing Anton to the left, and your decision at that point is then made. Maybe you want to get a developmental guy or something like that. That's, later in the draft, third round, fourth round, whatever, a lot like they did with Foster already, and just keep trying to develop these guys for the next, few years. Sure. That makes total sense. But overall, I think that might be the route to go if you can. If you can't, then you know your path at that point. You've made it through the offseason. Anton's still here. They also have that potential with Walker Little because he's played the way that he's played. I'm just going to keep it real. Like he
yep,
had one or two rough plays overall. One, namely in the Philadelphia game.
correct.
But overall, he's played really clean, especially in the pass blocking, and played reasonably solid in run blocking. I'm not going to say he's played like incredible, but it's definitely an upgrade to Cam Robinson as far as in the run blocking.
He
Um,
and Ezra Cleveland, I feel like, are guys that are both good enough to hold on to if the numbers are right. but
Right. That's the
I don't
piece.
know.
If the
Yeah.
numbers are right with the and if you get a new GM, because I'm not. I've heard on very many occasions, and I've heard people closer to Walker Little. They've all said like, "Hey man, they've been out on coming back to Jacksonville for a while. Like they're out because they're not developing him. They're not giving him those opportunities. And now that the Jaguars finally are, and there's a potential of a new coach, there's a potential of a new GM that could change things. Walker Little could have been and may be playing himself into a reasonable contract situation where maybe they can give him something where he's betting on himself and it's still not hampering or handcuffing the team so bad that they have to go with a high draft pick earlier in the 2025 draft. That's a possibility. But again, that still depends on whether or not Trent Baalke and Doug Peterson is still in the door come Black Monday.
Now,
So
here's the
that's
real
here's
here's the real tinfoil hat, buddy. Because you and I both believe that while Bulky is a guy that should be shown the door, you nor I believe that will happen, right? I think we can confirm that here on this show.
no. Wait, you
Oh
think
wait,
Baalke won't be shown the door?
yeah, that's what you said. You don't think Shad will pull the trigger, is what I've heard you say before. Are you changing your mind on that?
I don't think he's going to pull the trigger. Think he's going. I think he's going to be able to if they lose the rest of the games this season or lose out the majority of the games this season. I think there's an avenue for the players to win Trent his job, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that completely makes
Showing
sense.
that without Doug in the picture, or not running the right plays or whatever sales pitch you'd make if you were in Trent Baalke's shoes, that this roster is good enough to win. See, they won 5 of their last 6 or 4 of their last 5 or whatever else. I see that little finger argument, if that makes sense. And that's kind of where I am for someone who doesn't watch ball like Shad, that I can see that being a believable
Wow.
argument.
In other news, apparently Travis thinks that Shad will hire Emmanuel Alcho as the EVP. Anyways,
He did. I mean, shoot.
why?
Let's keep it clear. I mean, at this point, when Shad Khan, your owner, does not watch ball in that way that most fans take this thing in and eat this thing up, then you are essentially the EVP, Shad Khan. You are the EVP in every way. So the head coach answers to you, the general manager separately answers to you, but you personally don't know the intricacies of football. Then what that means to me is when both these guys are making their sales pitches to you, it's not about who's giving you the best idea. It's about the sales pitch. It's the snake oil salesman situation. It's just about who sounds smoothest and saying what they're saying. And if we know one thing about Trent Baalke, raspy voice and all, I mean, you may as well just have a saxophone playing in the backfield in the background. But the man's gonna say what he needs to say to CYA and to make this thing look like it's everybody else's fault but mine. Like we know that, and somebody who
Bruh,
don't know ball like Shad Khan is going to believe that.
bruh. So when you said that, every time I hear careless whispers now in the background with what's Bulky doing?
Hmm. 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 Hello on them
No,
arms. That's all.
I listen, man. That's funny.
Oh, so shout out to Black Mamba on Twitter. So he's basically just commented live on. So this would mean tight end, wide receiver, defensive tackle, offensive line, safety are all high needs again in 2025.
I'm not gonna
Sheesh.
go quite that far, but also yes.
But are they all? Would they all be on the table for the right talent? I don't think that's even an exaggeration. I think that's
Yeah,
accurate.
like needs,
So
high
tight end,
needs.
receiver, defensive tackle, offensive line, safety, cornerback. I don't necessarily disagree.
The reason, and by the way, this is on paper, and assuming Tyson stays healthy, good luck. I think
Right.
corner is the least of them,
Really?
but yeah, just
Okay.
simply based on injury, based on development with the young talent. Um, you know, safety is to me pointing out an aging Darnell Savage and a struggling Cisco. Whereas,
Yeah.
once Darby's out, theoretically you could free up cash to get him. I don't know what that looks like. I need to be fresher on that. But for my money, again, assuming Tyson Campbell stays healthy, Jarian Jones has been doing awesome. I don't think you argue with that. And Prince,
Yeah.
he's coming up and along. I mean, that's where I'm coming from. But also the problem with corner is you have the most ground to gain because you need depth to be a good
Mm-hmm.
cornerback core, and I can make the argument you don't have that. But the term high need
Mm.
compared to left tackle, compared to safety, no, I wouldn't say so.
You want to know the worst thing about all of this?
Mm.
Is I can't even give you a good answer because I have no idea. No, because I have no idea who's the defensive coordinator is going to be next year,
Yeah,
and
sure.
what happens if they ended up having to make the decision to go back to a more heavy zone defense after just getting rid of one of their best zone cornerbacks in Darius Williams
Right.
last season for basically nothing because they wanted to go too closer to a man defense. That's the more punching myself in the groin situation that I can even think of in this right now. Is just because like, yeah, it's that whole Michael Jackson from Family Guy skit thing. Like just
Nice.
that it's that because you don't know what they're going to do next year. You don't know what kind of defense, whether it's 3-4-4-3. You don't know if it's going to be Ryan Nielsen or someone else. You probably have to assume someone else. But who knows, man? So because of that, I'm just like, though, you don't know what kind of skill set that you're looking for as far as cornerback is concerned. It might work out just with Tyson Campbell because he's shown he can play good in the zone defense or man defense, but you don't know what you need on that opposite corner. So cornerback probably would end up being something that's a high need because you want to be able to do whatever you wanted to do with the rest of the defense. If you can
Yeah.
just take guys off the field, which are two outside cornerbacks, then cool. We can get a second round, third round, fourth round safety, and a lot of the times you can get a really good one that with some range in that range of the draft. So a lot of those guys, a lot of those other positions that he mentioned were high on my radar at least, especially offensive line. I can see that, but that the question mark on the defensive coordinator is really a head scratcher to me, especially again after getting rid of one of your best zone cornerbacks in Williams just a season ago, and it's quite possible you might have to go right back to that.
But and while that's all good and well, the correct answer for the biggest need of the ones listed there, still, no matter what, no matter whatever we say, no matter who the defensive coordinator is, still defensive bleeping tackle. Period. Point blank. End
Can't stop the
of
run. Yeah, can't stop
story.
the run.
So, and they can help with the pass rush too. But
True.
Robert coming in with the timely comment. I'm just about ready to put on my tinfoil hat and answer the question about the left tackle spot, such that it was. If they invest in a tackle at a high round draft pick, it will be if they retain Trent Baalke, and Trent Baalke does some Trent Baalke ish, trades out, takes Jacksonville out of the Travis hunt, and gets a tackle in the first round still anyway by some sucker that's going to come up and get Dion's kid. Or
But
I
this,
say
but this is
Dion's
what it
kid,
feels like. I
even though he's
mean,
not a
yeah,
Sanders, he's still Dion's kid. That's how
he
I
may
look
as
at it.
well be. Yeah, he may
Yeah.
as well be honorary Sanders.
He said as
Um,
much.
yeah, but oh goodness, sorry. But it was weird. It is what it is because at the end of all of it, I don't. It almost feels like everyone in Jacksonville, and I think I'm accurate in saying most people in Jacksonville are begging to be saved by the trade out. They're begging to be saved by this imaginary trade out that may or may not happen because I mean this feels exactly like the Trevon Walker Hutchinson season where everybody has like that they all have that what do they call it, revised history,
Yes.
where because a lot of people were like, I don't want Hutchinson, I don't want Hutchinson, I don't want Hutchinson, and I don't want Walker. And then we got Walker, and they were like, "Why didn't you take Hutchinson?" It's like, wait, you didn't want either one of them. But now we're like years later, and it's like Hutchinson's blowing up and everything else. But now we're in another year where the Jacksonville Jaguars could be picking at 1-1, and we want to be bailed out by that same trade down that may or may not happen depending on how the other teams feel about these quarterbacks. And we won't know that really until you're getting past the Senior Bowl, until you're getting past the pre-draft process, hoping these guys kind of raise up. And then if that happens, we'll be great. Jacksonville should be in a great spot to do that. I mean, again, there's at least 5 teams that I think are like heavy in the quarterback market, and there's probably another 4 that are a coin flip in that conversation, namely the Indianapolis Colts, Tennessee Titans, Pittsburgh Steelers. There's a few others where Jacksonville may even trade down into that 10 range. So I can see it. But all that to say is, I hope that is as realistic as we currently believe it to be. Because it sucks that we might be entering another year where Jacksonville is 1-1 and there might not be the appetite for a trade up that we all wish there was. So we just
There's
have
no
to make the
player that
best
jumps
best
off.
pick.
Yeah, there's no player that jumps off the screen enough, especially at the quarterback position. Are you excited about Quentin Ewers? I'm not. I'm not. I mean, when it
Well,
comes to Beck, I say, what the heck, you know?
because
Listen,
all the trades end up being based on historical trades. And if you want anything that's remotely close to what teams have gotten in past years to trade up to one, either you're gonna feel like you gave it up for significantly less than past years and just bite that bullet, or you're gonna take the pick and hopefully it's the right one, because obviously if you were even looking into the trade down, then you didn't believe it was the right one. You know what I mean?
I'll put it this
If he's
way.
your guy, you're taking him.
I feel like Shad Khan and Trent Baalke assess butts and seats as part of the factor, and you can't get a better butts and seats trade in the upcoming draft than being a Travis Hunter.
Yeah, but this team, do you want to win? Well, I guess that's never been the conversation. Obviously, they built this thing ass backwards. They built it skill guys, and then worried about offensive line and defensive line later.
Done bought that icing before you got the flour for the cake. Listen, I get you, bro. It's all right.
Wait.
But,
oh, you'll steal the cake, miss, if you ain't stole the bowl? Oh, sorry. That's from a comedian that I listen to, and he's been saying that for years. It's just a weird thing. Don't mind me at all. But if you know, you know. Yeah.
Hey, I'm making a Colin Cowherd reference. If we happen to meet in the middle here, like Dylan and Dutch from Predator, cool. Let's do that high five. Like.
Oh man. So yeah, we did it backwards, and we're hoping for that the new head coach and or potential new head coach, potential new GM will then come in and give us an infusion of talent at offensive line, at defensive line, so that we can build this thing up in a more stable manner and actually like move some guys up front, man. We have the skill players, and I think we're really solid on that. Even if we were to lose someone like an Evan Ingram or lose someone like a Christian Kirk, I think we'll be in a reasonable spot, just with one or two guys, in those rooms, and primarily just needing more guys at defensive tackle and offensive tackle and establish a running game. I think we'll be fine there.
With that in mind, for a man who said he's trying to take it easy, you done went 10 minutes over. Champion, tell the world where you can be found.
I blame you all. Y'all be pulling me back, man.
It's like Godfather 3 up in here.
You can find all of my writings cover the Jaguars at bigcatcountry.com. We will have all of your breaking news. You'll have all of your breaking news this coming week. Any news updates. Hopefully, Shad Khan, his boat's still in downtown Jacksonville. You never know. We're good there. Yeah, we're good there. Travis D. Holmes on Blue Sky, Travis D. Holmes on Twitter, on all the socials. Definitely hit us up on the Jaguars Discord, etc. I mean, we're here to talk ball on whatever platform you're on, as long as just keep it respectful. We're good. What about you, sir?
Hey man, listen. Of course, at the SOTG on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. Goodness gracious, Deuce. Tweet at me or sky at me, butterfly at me. What's the dang verb for Blue Sky? I don't even know yet.
Hey man, whatever. You know what it is. I don't know what it is either. Hit me up.
Post at me on Blue Sky so I can actually start following people. Like, cause I haven't even followed anyone yet. It's that fresh and so clean. What can I say? Of course, find me on Facebook as a student of the game. Check out my writings with Fans First Sports Network. I don't explore. I tell y'all, Humpy Bumpies, why Bill Belichick is a bad idea. Check that out, of course. Also, I never had you straight up go nice about an article I've written before, Travis. That's awesome. Of course, my writings as well for the Orlando Magic by the same Fans First Sports Network. Check out also my work with the Black and Gold Banneret, covering basketball and football. I have an article up on a retrospective on point guard Darius Johnson, as well as my work with the Night Shift Live podcast. You can find on the Black and Gold Banneret YouTube channel and the Student of the Game podcast as well, 9 o'clock on Wednesdays after I record with this guy, 7:30, doing the Duval Dive on Wednesday. Football's getting into the twilight of the 2024 season here, man. It's going kind of crazy. I'm going to have to be juggling the NBA and bowl games here pretty soon. We're coming up on that time of the year. Mariah Carey's out here. I'm like, shut up, woman. I got to make it to bowl games. It's crazy. So for my guy, Travis D. Holmes, thanks again to the commenters as well. This is Con Ash, student game. Until next time, everyone. Class dismissed.